All right, good morning. It's 10 o'clock a.m. here on Eastern Standard Time. I want to welcome you to our July EPN program. Normally, at this very time and place, Jeff Sharp, Director of the School of Environment and Natural Resources, will be providing a formal welcome. He is with family at the moment and unable to join this morning, so I get the pleasure of welcoming you to a really exciting program with someone who I'm just so delighted that we have a chance to feature. Joshua Simon, we've known each other for a few years. I think we met probably 3 or 4 years ago when you first came to Ohio State for graduate school, but I really learned a lot about Joshua and lead up to our December 2018 program when we compared the sustainability of real Christmas trees versus artificial ones. And in lead up to that program, a variety of folks from the EPN and SCNR community shared video stories about their Christmas tree traditions. And Joshua had a really funny one about, well, I think it involved chainsaws and a gift shop, hot chocolate. And anyway, it's great to see 3 years later, the work that you're doing now, which we're going to feature here in a minute. We also have a special guest who I'll introduce in a second. Nicole Jackson is going to be moderating today. So before Nicole joins, I just want to say that you have the ability to, as you're logging in, we've been doing Zoom meetings for a very long time now. If you want to change your name, if you've logged in and you don't like how your first name, last name is being featured, the directions to change those, I will put up here on the slide. So if you would like to adjust how your name is featured, then please do so. The other thing you're welcome to do right now is to go ahead and in the chat, share your name, where you're coming from. Feel free to share with everyone if you want, or just with our speakers. We'd love to know where folks are joining us from today. I think we have a really strong turnout here from Central Ohio, but also I saw on the registration list at least, and then looking at some of the names as they log in, we do have some folks from across Ohio and outside of the state as well. So I hope everyone is still having a chance to get out there wherever you are joining us from in your Metro Parks community. I know for me, during the time, the stay-at-home period, and then in the year and a half that we've had of social distancing and looking for different ways of recreating, the Metro Parks have been a huge part of my life. And I know for members of my family, we can't thank the Metro Parks, the City of Columbus, and the various public spaces that are available to us in the various communities that we live. So it's an honor to be featuring Joshua and his work with Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks. I will share at the end of the program about our plans for the autumn semester as we look to return to campus to start back into some in-person and hybrid programming. But I want to move into today's program. So I'm very excited about this topic area, and we're very fortunate that Nicole Jackson, who's our former EPN program coordinator and alum of our School of Environment and Natural Resources, was able to help set up the program today. She reached out and connected with Joshua to develop today's program. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Joe, for that introduction. Welcome, everyone. My name is Nicole Jackson, as some of you already may know, and I see a lot of my good friends in the room. So I'm excited that you could be a part of this presentation today. So again, my name is Nicole Jackson. I have a few different titles, but most important are that I'm an environmental educator, a park advocate, and ultimately a connector of ideas, which is something that I love to do as part of my career. I also serve on the advisory council of the National Parks Conservation Association, which provides me the opportunity to explore effective methods of engaging younger generations in national park advocacy and protection. So that's some of the current work that I am doing. It seems like this summer season has been going on forever, but it actually hasn't even been a full month yet of summer, which again is very shocking to me. I also can't believe that it's been 6 months. It'll be 6 months this week since I moved on from my position as EPN coordinator. So it feels surreal that that much time has passed, but I'm glad to see that my replacement Cecil has taken on this role without missing a beat. So thank you, Cecil, for being open-minded and just absorbing all of the craziness that came along with the training and moving forward with Joe into this new year. Since that time, I've been thrust into adjusting my networking in different ways. So I've been a part of a lot of virtual presentations, panels, workshops, small outdoor gatherings, which include a group called Black Women in Nature that I've invited, or where we've invited Black women specifically in Columbus to do nature outings at various metro parks here in Columbus, which has been very rewarding, and much more, which I am very excited to just be a part of getting into that, more into the outdoors since the start of the pandemic. July so far has brought mostly hot and humid weather, but that hasn't kept people from visiting their local parks. And I feel like that's increased visitation just because more people are wanting to not be inside as much and get out. So I feel like what better time than the summer. I also would like to mention that July is Park and Recreation Month. It is a time to recognize the importance of parks and recreation in establishing and maintaining quality of life and contributing to the physical, economic, and environmental well-being of communities. This was celebrated actually since July of 1985, and individuals and organizations can promote the benefits of local parks and recreation centers to communities and encourage people to get outside, explore local parks, and enjoy outdoor activities. Today, we will review what programs and opportunities our Metro Parks, Columbus Metro Parks, system has to engage community residents. We will also explore how we can best continue to support the varied uses of our local parks and discussing opportunities to create an even stronger community network of park visitors. Therefore, it is great to have our speaker joining us today, who will have much more, who will share much more about their role at Franklin County and Columbus Metro Parks. So Josh is a really good friend of mine. I've had the chance to connect with him during my time with the EPN past couple of years and learning more about his studies and his work in the community, but also just his passion for connecting people of color to the outdoors and the benefits it has to offer. So the first thought in my mind, as soon as I heard about his new role at Metro Parks, is to connect with him and see if we can get something put together for EPN, and another way to bring other organizations and partners to kind of thinking outside of the box of how they can continue to connect with the community and with each other to provide more opportunities of engagement and as well as professional opportunities for young people. So you can review the bio for our speaker on the screen in front of you. Joshua is joining us today from his office, Columbus Metro Parks headquarters in Westerville. We will have time for audience Q&A at the end of this program, and we invite your comments and questions to have those built in for about 10 minutes following the speaker's presentation to answer those questions. So I will be moderating that towards the end. And then please notice that in the chat box, Cecil has posted some basic directions. If you have general comments, post those in the chat box. You can also use the chat box to troubleshoot any tech or connection issues directly to our event host, Joe and Cecil, in case you have them. Don't hesitate to submit any questions to our speaker throughout the program, though please do so using the Zoom chat box again. In the taskbar at the bottom of your screen, Joe and I are monitoring the dialogue as Josh will give his presentation. Throughout the Zoom meeting, questions submitted into the chat box will be available for our speaker to answer, and he will answer those out loud with his video and audio on. So again, specific to speaker and the presentation, go in the chat box to be asked by Nicole. So at the end, I will go through the questions that have popped up and ask a few of those to our speaker for today's program. This program is being recorded and will be published on the EPN YouTube channel at a later date. Thank you for joining us today. And now over to our speaker, Joshua Simon.
Thank you for the introduction, Nicole and Joe. I appreciate it. It's funny that, like Joe says, it's been almost 3 years since we've been knowing each other, and how things have come full circle. Started going to the EPN breakfasts, mostly for the free breakfast and the connections, and how things has come full circle as to me actually now leading the event, as I've looked up to so many of the previous panelists and presenters in the past years, and it's great to actually be able to share my work and move along here. So once again, I'm Joshua Simon, here at Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks as the Diversity Inclusion Coordinator, and just to discuss green engagement and parks and community partnerships. Just a little bit about what I've been doing here in my short year at Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks. So just a little bit about my background. As you know, they shared a background briefly in the description, but just my background, I grew up in 4-H, born and raised in Louisiana, FFA as well. Went out to attend Southern University and college to study urban forestry and natural resources, minor in plant soil science. And with that study of urban forestry, I noticed that it was something else I wanted to do, something more I wanted to do as trees and environment relate to people. I always knew I wanted to do something with the environment. Didn't necessarily know I wanted to do so much with people, but just the more I decided to research and connect with some of my peers and professors, I know there was a bit more I wanted to do. Southern University is also part of the HBCU system as well. Then I led on to go to Ohio State to pursue a master's in environmental social science with minor in public policy and management. And just thinking as I was considering where I wanted to do my graduate studies, I said I want to do something with people. I want to do something with expanding the environment, expanding trees, expanding people's knowledge of the environment. And so coming on to Ohio State kind of allowed me to do that as my master's research focused on how communities of color and migrant communities here in Columbus utilize and access parks and green spaces. And just doing that is really taught me a lot and gave me the opportunity to hone into what I wanted to do. So just briefly about Columbus Franklin County Metro Parks, we have about 19 parks here in the Central Ohio area, 7 counties actually. Going to be opening up another park pretty soon. Over 208,000 acres that we cover, 230 miles of trail. So that means we cover a lot of ground. Here in this map, you can see that we are outside of 270 as well, as long as a few parks inside of 270, but just a vast amount of acres we cover. People just love the Metro Parks from what I'm learning since I've been here in the Columbus area. So just a little bit about my job itself. I get to do a lot. And it allows me to connect with people, allows me to go out in the community, it allows me to just see what other people here in Columbus are doing, what are they doing. And so I create things, I develop, I assist, coming up with strategies, various programs and services, initiatives, just making sure that communities of color and other underrepresented groups are given access to parks and green spaces here in Columbus. Because after all, our parks are really great. We have 19, over 20,000 acres. So it would be even nice if everyone here in the Columbus area are able to utilize these spaces and just engage in them all together. So with that, I'm developing connections, building relationships and partnerships. A lot of it actually has been cold calls, cold emails like, hey, I've seen your social media pages, seen your website. How can Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks connect you all? How can we get you all into the parks? What are some things you are doing? Have you considered making urban forestry, or have you considered the green space as a place for your communities to come in and maybe worship, just come and hang out or come and hike? So that's a lot of what I've been doing. A lot of us are making up as I go, but I've enjoyed every bit of it. And so early on in my tenure here, the very first thing I did was, I think it's been about 2 weeks, is this Old Tangent River project, is where they were like, hey, we have this project here, this stretch of greenways trails along the Untitled River. How can we connect to communities of color, get some work done, and also make sure this area here is being utilized by its users. And actually, I produced a video there. And so Joe will help me with this video on his end and just give you the information about what is this first program that I've done.
Hi, I'm Larry Peck, Deputy Director of Metro Parks. We're right along the Olentangy Greenway Trail, which is the busiest trail in the state of Ohio with over 500,000 users a year. Prior to what we were doing with the Olentangy River project, a trail user would not have any idea that the river was here. This was grown up with honeysuckle, which is a non-native plant, and over the years, the honeysuckle's kind of taken over everything.
So basically, we just been cutting down honeysuckle, chipping the trees down, because all the honeysuckle build up too big enough for them not to see the river.
So by us removing this invasive species, honeysuckle, it will give trail users a way to actually enjoy and appreciate the area that they're utilizing.
So that's one component of what we're doing. The other part of that is an employment program, and so we thought, well, we could get an employment opportunity for young adults, and hopefully those are going to turn into permanent positions with Metro Parks.
Some successes we have seen so far are my crew actually excited about learning more about Metro Parks, opening up their purview and diversifying their knowledge of life, their knowledge of being in the environment, their knowledge of what's going on here in Columbus, Ohio.
Our belief is that this program is going to grow. We're doing prairie burns, and this week we're going to bring some of the Olentangy River Project folks to some of those prairie burns to help. So we're trying to give them a good feel of what Metro Parks is all about.
Particular parks have a certain project they want to get done, or they're looking to increase the diversity in their staff. They can reach out to me, and I can reach out to my community members and hire them 2 or 3 people and have them kind of work with those 2 park staff, and then at the end of that program, they can be hired on full-time as well. And it kind of gives those individuals a more individualized chance to work on things. The biggest impact I've seen it have on the crew members we've hired is them learning more about Metro Parks. They didn't know what goes into actually building a park, what goes into managing a park and maintaining a park. You can work at a place like this. You can bring your family to a place like this. And that's for me is intrinsic value, seeing people who maybe have not been exposed to these opportunities before then, showing them a new outlook on life.
This program taught me a lot about nature. Took me out my comfort zone for real, because I've never been an outside person, and I love the experience.
So a lot of the skills they're learning in the program can be applied beyond here. I'm teaching them workforce development, how to continue out through projects, but they're also teaching me new things, and that's one thing that we can appreciate.
Young people keep you young. Young people give you hope. Young people give you optimism that tomorrow is going to be a better day than today. And so I can tell you this is the best part of my job, and we really do want to make an impact on the community.
So that was just a kind of a short and sweet of what my initial program was, the initial job I had when I first got here. And it was a pretty good program. Just to kind of explain a little bit more, it was an 8-week paid program, gave them exposure to green careers, showcase what Metro Parks does as a career, because many people have only engaged with us maybe doing family reunions or special events, and not so much know what does a career look like in this field. Not more so of, okay, I see the grass is cut, but how does one even go about obtaining a job in this industry? How does one even go about getting into the arborist field or using chainsaws or whatnot? And so I think it allowed me to connect with people who have not necessarily interacted with us in the past and let them know, hey, this is a place that you can come and work. This is, and it's not just here in Columbus, but these types of programs and parks are replicated across the US, whether it be on the local, city level or the national level. There's always a way, there's a way for you to get in contact with green careers and just be a part of what we have going on here. And a few things I've learned is, as popular as we are in the Columbus area, some people will still a mystery. We still, if I say Metro Park, just say, oh, the city parks, oh, the parks with the rec centers. No, although we appreciate those parks, those are not exactly, we are mostly natural area parks outside of 270, the big acreage parks. And even though everyone, you would assume everyone uses the outdoors and jog and exercise outside, it's still new to many, and some of them use that parks in that area. It's still new to many to come out to a park and just walk and be and just get in touch with their senses. Some only see parks as a way to go in and play sports or go hang out with friends. Some see the parks as a way to go in and do some green therapy. And so it's very different ways that everyone utilizes parks and their access to parks. Another similar program, we've been doing this for quite some time, is called our CSI program, which is a high school internship program for Columbus City school students. And so it's been going on since 2007. Didn't have it this past summer, 2021, but 2020. So we are right now full force in 2020. An average, we hired 20 to 25 students in the Columbus City schools, high school students who have probably never worked a job there in their life. And so it's nice working with them, learning some of their interests and teaching them things they've never done. So this is making week 5 our 8-week program. And it was funny, week 1, like day 2, we had, and this is a picture here, we had just equipment training and just orientation about how things are done here. And so some of them never changed all of them on the vehicle, never added fluids, never changed tires. So we were teaching them those various skills that are very, usable skills that are used in the continuous years. And so just seeing their faces light up to new things, taking a hike and going out to River Bluff and hike banks is some of those things that they may not get on a day-to-day in their school year, but having them come on as interns and giving them a chance to do those day-to-day stuff as a group and individually has really been a good way to just get them involved in things. And when I'm not out recruiting people or just sharing the word of what it is that we do here in the careers, I'm also just networking with different groups, learning about what it is they're doing. So here's a few groups that I've connected with: Impact Committee Action. They have an AMP program called Achieve More and Prosper, the Urban League, Black Women in Nature. And some of these programs, they are looking to get their youth that they're working with involved in various things. And a lot of the current programs are connected with tech industries or carpentry industries. It's like how can we connect these young men and women to careers in the green field? How can we have these young people as foresters, urban foresters, arborists, aquatic ecologists, or just wildlife management, natural resource management? And so a lot of what I do is sometimes just go out and talk to different groups. I have a few lined up for the end of this month where they just want to come and talk to their students about green careers. We have some of my colleagues work with My Brother's Keepers, and we have them out, I think yearly, just out in the parks, whether it just be playing volleyball or rock climbing or kayaking and canoeing. And so being able to connect with so many communities who have like, oh, we didn't know Metro Parks has a rock climbing wall. We didn't know we can go and kayak and canoe in Metro Parks and it's all free. And so that's one thing I like to push is like, and as I connect with people, you may not know now, but since we've made this as a connection, we can continue to work with each other. And as I'm learning about new things coming about this information your way, as you're thinking about how you want to have your group connected with outdoors, let me know whether it be as simple as leading a hike or setting a rock climbing program. So these are things I really enjoyed doing over the past few months. And I think the community partners have enjoyed as well as our industry entity taking interest into them, seeing how they can connect with them. Just some upcoming things we have coming up now is we have a outdoor adventure program, which is usually every one day throughout the summer. Didn't happen last year because of COVID, but it's coming back this weekend at High Banks Metro Park. There's going to be a fun-filled event for rock climbing, zip lining, all kinds of things for the family. So I encourage y'all, if you are free, please come out and check us out. And also, please connect with us on our website, Instagram, Facebook. Our friends at Metro Park, ours is our nonprofit arm of our parks and system as well. Please stay connected. We have so many things coming up. And I wish I had my own website now, but this may be in the works soon. But just always get the word out about what it is that we're doing, how to very much connect with Metro Parks, because we're here 365, open every day, people love to come and hang out with us. There's also visitors here at 6:30 a.m. when our gates open up in the morning. There are also people now late to closing at 10 o'clock, rushing out because they just have to get their morning jog in or get that evening sit. So we just love to come out and hang out with us. We appreciate it. And if you see our rangers around, see our technicians who are usually wearing high vis color shirts, say hi, say thank you. They really truly appreciate when you stop in and talk to them. So I think that kind of conclude my program. If anyone has any questions, I definitely would like to answer some questions, just kind of engage in some Q&A.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Joshua. I love seeing those photos of the youth getting out and doing the different projects, and just knowing a little bit more about what's happening with Metro Parks since the start of COVID. So thanks so much for giving us that overview into the programs you're working on and how you're continuing to engage with the community. So we do actually have a question from Jade in the chat. How have you been promoting programs like CSI and ORP to the students, and what does that selection process look like?
Well, initially when I started the ORP, it was really Googling some people in the community and say, hey, we have a job opportunity coming up for some young people. How can we get connected? How can you send the information? And for CSI has been going on for years. So we've always had a presence in the high schools in the Columbus City school area. So that was part of that. And it was kind of hard to navigate because of COVID. And part of that was sending out our flyer to their counselors. It's like for the ORP, like it was my second or third week on the job. So it's like, even though I've made connections as a graduate student, but now I'm in a different space where I can actually hire people. So it was basically like I said, calling, emailing people, going out to different community centers and trying to figure out, okay, how can we have interviews also, because we can't quite meet in person. So we had a few interviews out in the parking lot in one of the community parks for internships for the high school students. I was allowed to meet with them in person for most of them. And they were only in school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And you had a different set of students for cohort A, cohort B. So it was a matter of reaching out to their counselor, hey, I have these spots open to interview your students. How can I come in? So it was basically a marathon race of a whole lot of Monday, Tuesday interviews, a whole lot of Thursday, Friday interviews. And for some ones I couldn't do in person, we just did virtually. And so the process, we could do a similar interview process as any other job would do, and just we mainly focus on people who are willing to work and willing to give us a chance.
Thank you, Jade, for asking that question. Next question we have from Shelley. Do you have any mentoring program? Sorry, do you have a mentoring program specifically to retain diverse employees and those from under-resourced communities?
Not a formal program, but everyone that I hire, I connect with them, stay in contact with them on a daily basis as like a mentor, whether it be just, hey, I'm out in the field, or yeah, work today, I'm gonna pop up and say hi, or hey, let's schedule a meeting, just talk and see how things go. So they've been not formally mentoring, but I always formally mentor them myself, just to make sure they are staying connected, they're safe, and they're feeling welcome here within Metro Parks.
Thank you, Shelley. I have a question from Maddie. What is the biggest way you've been able to involve people in the outdoors who may not have had previous interest?
I would say just as simple as having a meeting. So a lot of the meetings I've had over the past year, I've tried to meet in the park or outdoor. And so for instance, I had a meeting at Sharon Woods, and the lady said, well, I've been here a lot, but I never know a lake was here. And so I intentionally had the meeting toward the back of the park, because you have to drive through the park and see various features you didn't see. And so I haven't had too many trouble people just not being interested in outdoors. And more so, how can I connect more? How can I learn more about what it is you're doing? How can I learn more about various plants and trees? And so I never had I like to say I'm not connected to outdoors, I don't like outdoors. It's more so, how can I be more involved, and how can I find out other ways to be involved or connect with the outdoors?
Yeah, and I think we've had a lot of those similar conversations, you and I, after you left graduated from SCNR, just kind of catching up, but also seeing how we can partner and how we connect with the different things that we're doing as individuals, which I think is really helpful to just find that time to get to know the different interests and different ways to connect. Next question is from Rosalie. Do Metro Park employees often need specific certifications or experience? And if so, is there a path for new employees to receive that as a part of working at the Metro Parks? It seems like that could be a barrier to hiring.
So the cool thing about us is we can teach you everything you need to know. Some of our, like our rangers go through a ranger program where they do training and go to academy to begin full-time, but a lot of our things are, if you at least willing to learn and be safe and open to it, we can teach you a lot of what you need to do. So like I said, CSIs, the high school students usually come in knowing nothing. They don't use equipment or anything, but we allow them to use different things that they may not use in school. When I did the ORC program, none of them had any experience using chainsaws or leaf blowers or weed eaters, but as long as you are willing to listen in and just take on how the process of learning this, then there is no barrier.
Thank you. So Molly wanted to know what CSI stands for.
Columbus School Internship Program.
Thank you for clarifying that. And then question from Christine. How best can organizations within the community support your current or planned initiatives?
Stay connected. If I say I'm hiring 20 people next week, send me 20 people. Or if I say we have an outdoor adventure thing coming up, with make sure your group is just attending. Or if you notice that you have some students have a peaked interest in outdoors or peaked interest in just connecting in a different way, connect us. If you notice that you want to learn more about canoeing and kayaking or rock climbing, maybe let me know, and we can set up an event or set up a day where our outdoor adventure crew is doing rock climbing for your group. So I think it's a lot of ways to stay connected and just more so exchanging information. And I will send information along as I have things coming on. If y'all have a volunteer event, just to let me know, and I can come in as well, because there was a volunteer event a couple months ago with Growing and Growth Collective where they were helping out the garden. So I just went out to help out to be a presence in this community. So just staying connected and sharing information continuously is a way for us to help best support each other.
Awesome. I have a question from Amy. Sorry, let's make sure I scroll through this. And is there a wider DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative happening at the Park District? What other ways is the agency addressing DEI issues?
So yeah, we work on a few things, and since I've only been here maybe a year, so making sure when we roll out those things, they're conclusive and make sense. They're actually going to have some traction. So we are working on various things, looking at reviewing some of our policies, is reviewing how we even schedule people, because sometimes scheduling can be a barrier to some others. And so we're working on quite a few things, just making sure that whenever we roll out these things, they make sense and that we have crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's.
Thank you. So I have a question. How have the youth been receiving the training and mentoring from the programs you have so far?
I think they've appreciated, especially seeing that video we were doing prairie burns. They were like, "Will y'all do this? Like, does this happen?" And I think they've appreciated having people who have so much experience in various things. So we have people who are natural resource management majors, people who are wildlife majors, people who are park rangers, and this casual conversation between our full-time staff and our new staff I think they've appreciated just learning the insight about what it is in Metro Parks too. I think even our high school students have taken an interest in learning, just talking to some of our technicians who've been here for 20, 30 years, and just seeing how the district has changed in their team versus where they are now. And so I think they've just really enjoyed the conversation of, this is a career you can do, this is something that you can do in the future. And so I think more so they just enjoy interacting with the staff.
So do the partners, community organizations, or groups that you've connected with, do they realize the variety of things that happen at the Metro Parks, or is that something they're still finding time to better understand?
I think they're still finding time to understand that, because like I said, more so people just think, oh, a park is a park. The park just sits here. No, it's much more than that. So me also learning more about how we operate and how we do things and what more the park system can do for them. And it's also allowing them to say, okay, we can do these things here, this exists here. So I think they are beginning to understand that Metro Parks is more than just, green space. It's more than just a park.
Have there been any challenges since the start of your position to now, as far as organizing programs or even connecting with community groups?
Logistics is always challenging. So we provided transportation for the ORG program and for our CSI program. Logistics is always a pain, thinking about pickup times, drop-off times, if you have downtime, how to best fill that. And some of the challenges we've had, not just a challenge, just the way some things work out. And so you reach out to some community members like, hey, I have this program coming up, and you either don't get a response, or the response you get is very delayed, or they don't quite, I guess, get what you're trying to do. So working through that, and understand that everyone has their own challenges with their organizations, and recognizing that they're probably getting hounded by 1,000 different organizations about how to connect. And so I just realized that if I reach out to 10, I may get 5 responses back, and just working out with that. And it's just the way just kind of things work. So that's some of the challenges, but there are always ways to push through and just continue to do good work. And on the back end, that work just may come back 5 months later, like, hey, I just reviewed my email again and see that Metro Parks has this going on. How can I learn more about it? So just being connected and just casting a wide net.
I've noticed this within the past few months that there's been some updates, like social media and videos through YouTube of showcasing more of the programming and activities that can happen at the different parks. Has there been an uptick, I guess, of attendance or visitors from that type of engagement? Have you noticed that, or no?
I'm not sure. I know for sure when the pandemic hit a year and a half ago, our overall attendance increased like 30%. So I think on average we had maybe 10 million visitors a year throughout all parks, and they boosted up to like 14.1 million. So overall, just people have been outside more. But I can't say there's that directly connected to the YouTube programs we have had though, or the social media programs we've had.
In terms of the actual activities, I've received a few emails about the different programs, so kayaking, rock climbing. I noticed the numbers for people to register have been smaller compared to previous years. Has that prevented, from the smaller group sizes, has that prevented anyone from getting outside or connecting to the Metro Parks? Or do you see it still, more people wanting to do those activities?
I think it's still more people wanting to do those activities. I think more people are like, I'm not going to sign up. I'm just maybe to show up and see how things go. And people maybe not want to commit that time ahead of time, but I think it's still a fair amount of people who are actually still getting outdoors and enjoying what's out here.
Yeah, I literally have had to change my mindset with COVID happening last year, and even now, changing my schedule of how I get more active when I'm outside, and realizing that the Metro Parks are such an awesome resource and they're close by. Scioto Audubon is one of my favorite Metro Parks, and I actually was able to utilize that park a little bit more with spring migration and getting out to bird watch and inviting others to explore that as a recreation activity, which I think a lot of people are surprised at how many birds they see at Scioto Audubon, just because of the variety of habitats, the trails, and even the visitor center, the Grange Insurance Audubon Center. And they're very appreciative of the variety and the park staff, and how they're really involved in getting people engaged in those activities, and encouraging them to come back throughout the year. How can you explain a little bit more of how important that is to get people involved throughout the year versus just one season?
I'm working on that as well. I'm from Louisiana, so getting out in the wintertime is not my thing, but I'm getting to learn that even though it's a cloudy day, it's a cold day, still coming out for fresh air, walking through the parks is still a great way to see the fall. What I do appreciate is actually having a true fall is when the leaves begin to turn, and the beginning of fall is what I really enjoy. Is like, even though it's not, summer and it's sunny and 75, but coming out and see the fall leaves, coming out and just see how wildlife have changed over, in season as they migrate is a way to stay connected year round. Now, if it's a very cold winter stormy day, I may not be out there, outside, but reiterating to people, like, come see the leaves fall, or just get out and enjoy some good fall weather.
Have you noticed a change in the engagement around summer camps? I know we talked a little bit about that, and how more families are getting their kids involved since last year.
Yeah, our summer camp is actually in full force now as well. They may be I think they started the same week as ours, and they have, I know when they opened the registration, they were like filled up instantly because everyone wanted to get a child back in the summer camp. And our summer camp staff are very great. We have camps surrounded, but in some of our parks, most of our parks, and I know they talk about every day, like how much the kids are loving in camp. We even have some of our CSI students kind of involved in camp as well. And at the end of the day, or some days when we pick them up, it's like they just love working with kids, or just actually hang out with the kids. They just to hang around and be kids themselves all day long. So a lot of people have been involved with camp again, and just it's another way to get children outdoors early on, and it gives the parents a way to get rid of their kids for a day. So I think it's been a lot of engagement and love around bringing summer camps back as well.
In connection to the School of Environment and Natural Resources, or even forestry, how do you see the work that you're doing connecting, I guess, encouraging you to stay connected to what students are doing through the college, or keeping them engaged with different job opportunities or internships, or even thinking about different courses they can take to delve a little bit deeper into these career paths?
Well, for sure, staying connected with the Manners organization. As I was president of the Manners organization at Ohio State, which is minorities in agriculture, that's a research-related sciences. I'm mad that I started my job as an academic because I couldn't just hang out at their meetings like I intended to, but I was still some of their virtual meetings and talking to them about different career opportunities and professional development things. And so I always like to stay connected because Manners was a big part of me as a student, and also SCNR and just school in general. And so I always like to stay connected with various different students. And a lot of our summer interns here, our college interns, are SCNR students. So always being nice to connect with them and say, hey, these are some things Metro Parks has going on. These are some courses you may want to consider in your career. These are some things you want to consider as courses you may want to take. So I always like to stay connected with the students, because without being connected with them, there is no me, there is no future. There's no next generation of environmental leaders.
Yeah, that's so important, especially working with student groups and keeping them up to date with what's happening. So it's so easy to kind of feel disconnected once you kind of move up in the work that you're doing and taking on different responsibilities. But I feel like that's another way to kind of take a step back and show, expose the different connections to stay in touch with students, to keep them thinking a little bit more of how they can tweak or invest more into the dreams or career goals that they have.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, I just saw something pop up in the chat. So next question I have from Lucia, could you speak to how much transportation or access to transportation plays a role in who can access the metro parks? Are there some parks that folks can take the bus to pretty easily?
So yeah, transportation definitely affects a lot of who can attend our parks. As you know, a lot of our parks are outside of 270 loop, and most Coda buses don't go outside of 270. I know for sure there are a few parks for sure. Sharon Woods, off the top of my head, South Audubon, which is near downtown, that are near bus stops. But, and part of what I'm doing is talking to various groups alike. And so what I like to do is think, okay, you do have a group of students you want to bring out, a group of your office people you want to come out. How can we maybe help arrange a way to get you all out there? Maybe it be as me sometimes driving a van and just picking folks up, or could it be, okay, let's think about how we want to best engage, how we want to best get these people to this park. And so yeah, transportation has plagued us for a while and probably will plague us because we are mostly, larger land tract parks as opposed to city parks that are on every corner in every neighborhood. And so that's one of those things we quite haven't figured out. Don't know if we quite cracked that nut yet, but there's something that gives us something to continue to think about how we want to improve, how to best engage, and how to best rearrange what we're currently doing.
Thank you so much for that question, Lucia. I am one of those people who uses public transportation to get to different parks. So that's why South Audubon is one of my favorite, because I can take the Coda bus directly and then get on the trail to walk or bike, which is great. And we also have some really awesome connecting trails if you prefer to bike versus use your car or take public transportation. We have another question for Krista. How has COVID impacted your work within Metro Parks strategic operations, 3 to 5 year planning, long-term goals, metrics, revised opportunities for the region, and how so?
Okay, that may be a bit out of my purview, but I know for sure when COVID hit, we have not closed since COVID. COVID has not shut us down. We implemented a incident command structure and then we had our staff split into pods pretty much. So they were like 2 days on, 2 days off to kind of control the spread of things. And so luckily we've always stayed open. We've kept people healthy and safe. Parks kept being clean. And so we shifted some people who usually worked in the main office or our headquarters to outside roving, to just interacting with various just trail users and picking up trash to make sure we're remaining clean. We've had people who shift, maybe jump a little bit from being ranger to a naturalist, or jump from being a naturalist to a maintenance person. So we definitely have been nimble and been able to adjust easily, unlike many organizations have been. But I don't know how that may have impacted our 3 to 5 year plan, but that's what I know. We're still moving strong and our visitor attendance is up. So as of now, we're just 10 as any other day.
Yeah, and just a heads up, we will have a second portion to do a little bit more informal networking, and we do have some Metro Park staff in this meeting with us, so maybe that can be clarified a little bit more during that networking session. So please do stick around for that if you have time. One final question I would like to ask, and if you have questions, please again submit those, but just my final question, what has been the most challenging since the start of this position for you, and what has been the most rewarding?
I think I have one answer to answer both of that. Is since I'm the first in this position, that's been challenging by not having any metrics to measure success or any roadmap, but also the most rewarding is I can create what it is that I want to do. And if we decide that if we figure out that this doesn't work this year, maybe we'll revamp it and for the next year, figure out it doesn't work, or you know what, let's scrap this program or this project and start a fresh one. So it's nice, but that gives me the autonomy to do it as I need. And so, like I said, not having a structure or previous structure is both the blessing and the curse.
Yes, and I think I agree with that. There's been similar for me in past positions where it's been the first, and feeling like you have all of this wiggle room, but then still kind of limiting yourself because you don't want to feel like you're doing everything all at once. You kind of want to pace yourself and make sure you're finding your own rhythm. And I feel like that's really important in positions like these that kind of focus on really specific things, but then you want to broaden your audience and connections and networks to make sure that you're reaching everyone according to their needs and what they're seeking. So we do have a question that just came in. Thank you so much for answering that, Joshua. From Jade, have you had many conversations with people that once they become familiar with the parks, become more interested in other outdoor activities that are more in depth, such as hunting, fishing, camping, archery?
Yes, I have, because some of our, even our high school students have, since their little time here, like, what about learning about archery and fishing? And so I kind of referred them, talked to them, because I had a little background in fishing, hunting, not necessarily archery or camping, but talking to them and saying, hey, our outdoor adventure group does archery programming, fishing programming, backpacking programming. So just let them know that these are the type of things you may want to try to research about that. And also, a lot of our staff do those things in their leisure. So if we had a park where I know someone has experience in camping or hiking, they would just really love to do it. Maybe say, hey, I know someone who's has interest in this. Would you have some time to speak with them? We have some time to share their knowledge on that. So I have people who have went on a hike and say, okay, I now want to do all the things. So, okay, there's one thing at a time, but here are some people who can connect you to help to share information on how to do all of those various things.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people, I feel like I kind of know a little bit of everything, but then just knowing where those things are taking place and how I can participate is very new for me. So like, I didn't realize there was archery. I mean, I've done that in summer camps, summer camp programs, but not like officially on my own through Metro Parks. I really love the rock climbing wall at Scioto Audubon, but I've always done it by myself. I've never done it with a group. So earlier this year, Black Women in Nature came together and we did the rock climbing together, which was really fun because most of the group was just really nervous and scared because they'd never done it before. But having that experience from previous organizations that I've worked for and doing summer camps, they felt more comfortable knowing that someone did have background knowledge, and that the park staff could help them with that as well, and getting them set up and an overview of what they would need to know to enjoy the activity. All right, so we're going to wrap up with Pamela's question. What have you learned about yourself in this new role? Has it shifted your goals or notions of how you see your career?
What have I learned about myself that's a great question. We're a lot more capable than what I think, and also a lot more support than what I realized. And so one of the things I also learned is don't want to work 24/7 like I did for graduate school. So I learned to set boundaries with myself of when I clock out for the day, clock out for the day. Has it shifted my focus? No, my focus is pretty much the same. It just more so gave me more clarity on how to best pursue my purpose. It gave me more clarity on how to maybe focus doing things on local level as opposed to everyone sometimes to get into national level or national politics. Just really focus on how to make impact with a few organizations, a few community members you have contact with, instead of just always wanting to spread or widen it and just do all of the things, but more so focus on doing some great things with a few great organizations and giving them the opportunity to grow and expand.
Yes, I very much agree with that. And the building relationships is really important. Networking can be very fast and quick and, meeting all people all the time and, exchanging information, but sometimes it can be very surface level. So I think the way you were explaining earlier of the importance of meeting with someone one-on-one and having a conversation, or doing a tour of the park, or setting up something with a group that allows them to really think about how they can get involved, but also meeting them where they are, I think is really important. So having that time to really focus on the relationship building, I think, again, will encourage more opportunities to strengthen those relationships later down the line.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Josh, for this. My brain is like, in a good way. Like there's so much stuff I've learned from you, and a little bit more about Metro Parks. Thank you to everyone who asked questions today. Very great questions. And you have given as much to think about, and we will seek to join you in getting involved in more efforts to get more communities connected to our beautiful Franklin County and Columbus Metro Park. So thank you so much.
Thanks you all for having me. I appreciate it.
As is our EPN tradition, we want to recognize our speaker, Joshua Simon, with a certificate of appreciation and thanks for your participation today, albeit in electronic form. With the many environmental professionals who participated today are helping us learn for life and to positively shape our world. Please note that the EPN will be going back to in-person, EPN will be going back to in-person breakfast events starting in September.
See Joshua and Nicole and just say thank you so much. Joshua, I know you've been working with Nicole, myself, Cecil, the whole team that's here today to plan this event. And 1 year into this job, it's just so exciting to see all that you've impacted. And you mentioned before that you've been cold calling and reaching out to so many people to build partnerships and to lay the foundation for what you want to, how you want to see this program and the programs that you're doing roll out. And I imagine it's very much the other way too, that you're getting a lot of folks reaching out to you, wanting to build partnerships, wanting to learn more. So you have a lot going on. So thank you for making the time for us. And obviously, Nicole, it's just wonderful to be connected again. And as always, just wonderful moderation and facilitation. And you were mentioning about our September program. So the EPN
Yes.
will be back again in September, and we're exploring various ways of hosting hybrid programming to make the most of both these virtual opportunities, as well as bringing back what I think we know to be valuable in-person social interaction. And that program will be exploring the topic of fire. Joshua, you shared one example of the use of fire for ecosystem restoration in our parks. That's going to be the main topic of focus. We're going to have a little bit of a metaphor in terms of how are we rebuilding, renewing, and reshaping not only our ecosystems through fire as a treatment strategy, but also we've experienced so much change and adjustments and in some cases overall suffering and harm through the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is an opportunity for us to explore new ways of doing things while also revisiting some things that we hold dear, which is the opportunity to be with one another in the same place and sharing meals. So we'll be doing that safely. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the EPN breakout session. Nicole, I'll kick it over to you to explain a little bit more about what the next session is going to be like, because we are going to take a 10-minute break and have our virtual networking. But while I still have the mic again, thanks again, Joshua. Really appreciate your words and comments today and the work you're doing, and Nicole for the facilitation.
Yeah, so in the next portion, we'll be getting ready for our breakout sessions of informal networking. So if you'd like to stick around for the networking portion of this program, we will have a 10-minute break. So feel free to get up, stretch, grab something to eat or drink, and head back to join us for our informal networking session. Thank you all so much for attending. If you are not able to join for the second half, again, we appreciate your attendance for this program. The second portion, our informal networking portion of this program, we will be recording this section as well. So if you prefer not to be on camera, you can turn your video off and just have your audio on. It is up to you. Or if you don't want to be recorded at all, you feel free to leave. So just a heads up. Before we get started, just a little housekeeping. So we will be putting everyone into breakout rooms So we have 3 breakout rooms set up. We'll have Joe leading the EPN, Environmental Professionals Network breakout room. Lucia Habdallah will be doing the School of Environment and Natural Resources, Career Services, facilitating that room. And then Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks will be led by Joshua. So please feel free to, sorry, backtrack. Cecil will be putting you into the room. So you'll see something pop up on your screen for you to select. So don't do that now, but you'll see that pop up on your screen to select the room that you're going to go in based on what you filled out in the registration form. So when you get there, each facilitator will introduce themselves, talk a little bit more about their work. A lot of the information you got from Joshua already, but just again for introduction purposes, and then you'll be invited as attendees to introduce yourselves, where you're from, what work you do, and then go into any questions you might have for the facilitator about their work specifically. If you are wanting to go to another room, you can leave the room and go select another of the other 2 rooms to join. So do not feel obligated to stay in the one room that you were put in first. And I think just a note for the facilitators to save the chat. Feel free to put any of your contact information as environmental professionals, if you'd like to share with facilitators, into the chat box, and they will save that information to share with other professionals. Is there anything else that I need to review, Cecil or Joe, just to make sure I'm?
I think it sounds great.
Okay.
And also just feel free, again, when we break into our breakout groups, those are just going to be conversational. So feel free, we welcome you to turn on your video and unmute yourself when you're ready to talk.
And we will get a 5-minute warning from Cecil when we're going to head back to the main room, and then a 1-minute warning. So you will see that pop up in a blue at the top of your screen, just to be aware of the time that once we are done, everybody will come back to the main room and we'll discuss some of the things that stood out or were helpful that you learned from this networking portion. All right, so a good chunk have either had to leave early. So if you're still here, thank you for sticking around. And if anyone has any contact info they would like to share or opportunities they would like to share, please put that in the chat for us to collect. We are creating a resource list to share out from this program, so feel free to add any of that information to the chat. And then if anyone would like to share any takeaways or things they learned or found interesting with some of the conversations from the networking, please feel free to share that.
In general, Josh, I just want to thank you for being here and you spend the time talking to us today. I was excited to see this topic. It's very relevant to what the Division of Wildlife has been focusing on lately. So, and Nicole Jackson, I'd actually read an article from the OSU alumni. You're talking about getting more people out into birding, specifically people of color, and finding your space out there, which, you know, the kind of mission is to get everybody outside, seeing themselves in nature. So I was really excited about this topic and have you guys both involved here. And Josh, you talking about the significance of networking. That's kind of a personal goal of mine, is like seeing the value in a person, making those personal connections so that they want to get more involved in different aspects and that they feel comfortable doing that, give them the resources. So I found today very helpful. So thanks again.
Thanks for attending.
Appreciate you. And thanks for the questions, Jade.
Yeah, I guess I can share really quick. I was in the career services room, and we were a small group, so we disseminated after a little bit, but we just had some conversations about, I think just listening to everybody's roles and what they do in their jobs. Some of us might have roles that they are a little bit more straightforward. But if you look at them on paper, maybe versus what you do day to day, it's hard to say that this is exactly what a career advisor does, or this is exactly what a DEI coordinator does. And as a career advisor talking with students, it's a good takeaway for me, because I'm always telling them, you don't really know what that job will be like until you talk to someone, you get some experience, and also just, we talked a lot about getting the most out of a job, even if it's not your dream job, or it's kind of this temporary thing that you're doing, maybe because there's a pandemic or whatever else. And so just the importance of really extracting those transferable skills and using that, and hopefully you'll even get the opportunity to add some of your passion, to your next job, even if it's not in the job description. So just being confident in yourselves and having that flexibility and advocating for yourself that, like, I want to incorporate environmental education into this role, even if that's not what it originally was, something like that. So I think it's not really after COVID, but we're in some sort of weird transitional space where we're trying to figure out what lessons we can take. And that's one thing that I would like to think of as just more creativity and flexibility.
Thanks everyone for those summaries. I think Krista, Jade, Sarah, you're still here. Our group, we just had a lot of conversations. I mean, we filled the full time, and I think everyone shared. We had a group of about 6 to 9, depending, throughout the hour or so that we had, and covered a lot of ground. I think some of the things that were consistent with, maybe it was Nicole who was sharing it, I can't remember now, just a minute ago, about how our jobs can be similar and different, even though it may be, it's just you, Lucia, about like on paper, we might have some things in common, but when it actually goes to roll it out, we had 3 or 4 different state agencies represented. And there was an interesting conversation to me about how different agencies, how individuals felt within their agencies in terms of the process that they followed navigating the last year and a half. And I just feel very appreciative and humble to know so many different people who work in different settings, and to reflect that in my own experience. Darby and I, we were talking about being at Ohio State over the last year and a half, and the changes we've had as a university and as staff. And I think one thing that I try to lean into is it's almost impossible to see how, from another person's perspective, whether they're in a leadership role or in some other staff role. A lot of people have been in so many hard situations, so many challenging situations, of which there's no one right answer. And I think having spaces to communicate and to connect and hear and learn from others' experiences, I think it's helped me in terms of making sense of how to be the best or make the most of what one can, regardless of the situation. So appreciate everyone making time to be on today.
Yeah, and can I add just essentially that's why I wanted to put this together, just, from me making my transition from EPN into this, again, very different world of networking and community organizing, and even doing more virtual programming. It really just opened up my eyes to the different transitions that people are going through, whether you're, a community member, a professional, young person, that I think having that time to take a step back to catch your breath is really important. And I felt like having this program kind of revisiting what's been happening since the pandemic, but also opening up an opportunity for us to check back in with each other of what we're doing, the challenges we're still facing, but also the improvements that we're making with our networking and collaborating. throughout the state of Ohio in these different roles is very important versus it being, okay, it's business as usual. We've been doing the same thing in the same way since the start of the pandemic, which obviously looks very different now, but just having that space to reset and regroup and from those conversations, see where we can build up. So I thank all of you for being here and participating and sharing your thoughts and reflections on how you want to move forward and just making this a really awesome networking opportunity. So thank you.
One thing, thanks, Nicole. And one thing that I think it was Susan in our breakout group shared some wisdom about pre-pandemic social capital, or who you know, the networks of people you knew before the pandemic. That was really important in navigating workflow and just how to get things done during the pandemic, and then whatever it is going forward. And I'll say, I mean, Nicole and we worked together for a couple years, and one thing that I learned in working with Nicole is her ability to create a vision and deliver really amazing conversation facilitation. And I think having these relationships, to me, it's the value of having working relationships. You get to learn people's strengths, you get to know what they're excellent at. And Nicole, thank you again for developing this topic. Joshua, what you've given to us and sharing about your experiences. And, you know, as we all go together, remember, we're all here for each other. We're all environmental professionals and we're connected in different ways. And so I just want to echo on that theme a bit, Nicole, and also to say thank you again. And thanks, Lucia, for giving time to facilitate one of our rooms, and Cecil doing all the work on the back end to keep it flowing.
Yes, we all have a role. That's the important thing, to keep things moving forward. So I appreciate all of you. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to the facilitators from today, Lucia, Joe, Joshua, and even Cecil can be helpful in connecting the EPN resources. I think this is, again, another wonderful opportunity for us to start, you know, from somewhere, but also knowing that we do have these networks to build from, and we're all resources. So thank you.